Appreciate you guys being here. If you didn't know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my business partner, Mr. Andrew Martineau, who I guess you guys know has contributed to AF for many, many years. So thank you guys for being here. But I'm going to share a little bit of my story, but I'm going to leave you guys with some tried and true, tested, proven methods and takeaways that are going to help you in your daily life, in your practice, in your work, and hopefully help prevent or not have burnout come on as quickly as it tends to do for people like myself, and I'm sure people like yourself. How many of you have seen this event that we do? It's actually sponsored by the local American Advertising Federation chapter of Broward and the Palm Beaches. It's Creative Zen. We'll invite you to it, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But before all of this, before all of what she mentioned on the intro, I was a baby. And fortunately, I'd like to share this little part of the story. My parents met through something called S training. It was predated Landmark Education and Landmark Forum. It was kind of like before Gratitude Training and The Secret and Tony Robbins. It's a personal development, transformational seminar workshop series. They were very passionate about it, and they graduated to the advanced course, leading and organizing seminars, and they truly just loved helping people. So I feel like those genes are intrinsically passed down into my DNA and wanting to help people, being here on a Saturday, giving back. And my parents, somehow in the 70s, I don't normally mention this, but it's going to come up with some of the points I'm going to share with you. They were involved in a lot of breath work and hypnosis, and they actually started a side business called Alpha Relaxation. Have any of you guys ever heard of binaural beats, isotones? There are certain waves and certain hertz and frequencies. They help you unlock different brainwave patterns. They can help you go to sleep. They can help you focus. I did not put a slide, that'll be for the next presentation in here, but they were doing that in the 70s without modern computer technology, and they were giving that with headphones to PGA golfers before they would go out on tour, on the course, to help them get in a more relaxed state so they can have optimal peak performance. So those genes, I feel, are also intrinsically passed down into my DNA as well. I'm going to give the short version of the story, and then we'll get to the real meat and potatoes element of what we're here. I was just a regular guy working as a recruiter, sitting at a desk, being a regular Johnny 9 to 5, and I started listening to TED Talks on my lunch break. I started listening to them after work. I started going to my parents' house and listening to them. Fortunately, NSU, where Andrew's president of the Alvin Sherman Library Circle of Friends, was hosting their own TED Talk, and I was very fortunate to be there for a lot of alumni, students, professors, and fortunately, does anybody know who that guy is on the right? He's the most famous marine artist of all time. Yes, I was there for Dr. Guy Harvey's TED Talk. These TED Talks were giving me a lot of inspiration and motivation, and I started kind of feeling a calling to want to do more than just be a recruiter and sit at a desk and work a 9 to 5 forever. Fortunately, I discovered this gentleman's work in 2015. Does anybody know who this is? Yes. I don't know if he's part of AdFed. Maybe we can get him one day. But he was really preaching, you know, he's very successful. He started his family's wine shop, grew it from 3 million to 65 million. He's one of the first people on Google Ads, one of the first people to take an Uber ride, one of the first people in Airbnb, one of the first investors in Facebook. And now he's preaching not only entrepreneurship, but kindness. So this came into my life at a very serendipitous time when I was looking to leave recruiting, and he was preaching, you know, what do you want to do every day for the rest of your life? Do that, and doing the right thing is always the right thing. This was before Andrew instilled altruism in me, but this was my early exposures to wanting to do more with my life and step outside of my comfort zone to unlock my hidden potential, which we'll get to. I was really just enjoying, loving, exploring food, going to events, restaurants, farm to table, chef-inspired tapas, these food events. And the way the story goes, in short, I went to a training seminar, and a woman told me on break that she was doing this thing called blogging, and she was getting paid to write about stuff she was receiving for free. It was very like Rob Report-esque, very luxury watches, belts, and really cool stuff. So it kind of made a mental bookmark in my mind. And at this time, this was in 2014, I was going to these restaurants, I was taking pictures of food, I wasn't really doing anything with it. I was posting it on something called Foursquare, if any of you guys remember that. It's kind of like Vimeo. It was like the really early stages of Yelp. And my friends would say, I love the places that snow stops at. And fortunately, with inspiration from this woman that shared blogging with me, I started Snow Stops Food Blog. Well, fast forward, I go to a very similar event to what I shared with you, the monthly breakfast lecture series that AdFed sponsors and co-hosts every second Friday morning of the month. Have any of you guys ever heard of Creative Mornings? Okay. So the third one I went to, it was this woman on the left here. She was speaking on the topic of language. It's not that we speak the language of English, Hebrew, or Spanish. If you speak the language of positivity, you'll portray positivity. And if you speak the language of unworthiness, obviously your actions and your reactions are probably going to be unworthy. But more so than that, she had a very interesting story. Was a rising college student in the fashion industry in New York City. Unfortunately developed a bacterial infection, developed sepsis, got in a coma, 1% chance of living, saw herself running through the green field of grass, got out of that to co-found something called the Women's Empowerment Expo, which was a big thing here in South Florida before COVID. And, but more so than all that, she was preaching to be genuine, be authentic, and pursue your passions. And with a little insight from the TED Talks and a little insight from Gary Vee, and a little insight and motivation from my friends and mentors, I knew I wanted to do more. I started getting really involved in this community-driven event. And then I fortunately, around this time, moved into downtown Fort Lauderdale with two Honduran brothers from Memphis that when their friends would come, they would say, David doesn't choose 901. He doesn't go back home to Memphis. I'm like, what's this choose 901 thing? I'm a strange cat, so I call the founder and I say, can you tell me about this choose 901 thing? And they tell me it was initially started by the church to teach people computer skills, because Memphis, while it's a great place, a lot of history, it does have 2 of the 5 worst neighborhoods in the country, North and South Memphis. But he told me then that the city acquired it to recruit teachers, paramedics, and firefighters to want to live and work in Memphis. And now this choose 901 thing is part of the conversation. So much so that despite all the bad stuff, I felt called to go to the World Championship Barbecue Festival during their month-long Memphis in May celebration, because I was food blogging and a foodie at the time, and still am. So I saw the impact of this choose 901 thing. I come back, I'm developing a lot of relationships with artists. I'm going to a lot of artist studios. This is the early stages. Does anybody ever go to the Fat Village Art Walk? Okay, thank you, Andrew, for starting that. It was a great thing that helped for many years in the community. And I'm establishing relationships. I'm taking my cell phone around. I'm doing some Facebook Lives, but once again, I wasn't really doing anything with it. And I felt called in June 2016, before the Art Walk, which is one of our greatest community events, to start something called Choose 954 as a social movement to cultivate culture and community in Broward County, where I was very proud to be born and raised from, in an effort to keep people to know with a lot of great things that are going on, to make this a better place to live and not just a better place to vacation. So I'm doing this very humbly. At this time, I do share now, I left recruiting to join something called entrepreneurial, which really means I was driving Uber and Lyft to try to make ends meet. I wanted to give myself the freedom and flexibility to figure it out and see where I could go on this path. And fortunately, the way the universe works, from my love of TED Talks, from my love of Creative Morning Talks, from the love of community, I get invited to the Tower Club. Has anybody ever been there? It's the top of the Regions Bank building in downtown Fort Lauderdale. It's a members-only club, and a lawyer, professor, radio show host, very powerful, inspirational woman that I had just met at one of these talks invited me to a TEDx simulcast event. She was playing Amanda Palmer's TED Talk on the art of giving. She was a musician and a street performer that just wanted to give her music away, ended up giving it away for millions of dollars, and it was one of the top 10 most watched TED Talks of all time. And after the TED Talk's over, there was an opportunity to network. And the way the story goes, and this is why I love coming to events like this, and you never know who you're going to get to sit next to and how that person can potentially change your life. The way the story goes is some old gray-haired guy sitting to the right of me. I'm sorry. I didn't touch it this time. Okay, is it good? All right. He said, tell me what you do. And I go, I just started this Choose 954 thing. The old gray-haired guy probably could have cared less, but fortunately, he's a very sharply dressed Trinidadian brother with a dolly mustache and a Zara suit sitting to my left. And he goes, well, that sounds kind of interesting. Let's meet for coffee. And you guys already kind of know Andrew, but the way the story goes, he invites me to meet at the Tower Club. I tell him my little history. I did a little cell phone sales, AT&T and Verizon. I did a little real estate. I played a little poker. Poker got me involved in recruiting. getting into recruiting, helped me learn how to fit a square peg in a round hole. It was helping people, but not really as much as I could have or wanted to. Andrew tells me his background. He came to this country in pursuit of his American dream, went to Miami College of Art and Design. His college professor was the pioneer of digital art, Lawrence Gartell. He taught art in prisons. He worked for some of the largest agencies when he first came here. He got very involved in AdFed, obviously. He worked for some of the largest developers. He was involved in many chamber boards. He helped develop Artisan Entrepreneur Program. I'm like, wow, like what do you have interest in me? But there's a recurring theme here. He saw something in me that I might not have seen in myself at the time, just as the professor did that invited me to this TEDx event where I fortunately met him. And we are meeting for coffee. And on the third event, we're talking about all the things that we don't have going on in Broward County and in Fort Lauderdale. And at this time, you guys familiar with this little thing? It happens in Miami first week in December. It's called Art Basel. Okay, million people come in, produces $1 billion economic impact for 1 week of art. Our county in Broward County, where we both live, where we're passionate about, maybe does $400 million for the year annually countywide. These guys are doing $1 billion for 1 week. So we think, what if we had our own version? But we don't want to do what everybody else does with a tent, a convention center, or a hotel. We don't want to just do a Basel and Broward. We have beautiful elements in Fort Lauderdale, the Los Osos Intercoastal Waterway Systems, these homes that are on the water, and a water taxi. How many places in the world have that? So what if we did the first art fair in the world that was held exclusively inside these homes, made only accessible via boat? It was a great thing, and we did it for 4 years up until COVID. We do plan to bring it back. Our goal when we set out to do this with very humble beginnings, and Andrew did self-fund this art fair to the tune of about $50,000. Our goal was to put Fort Lauderdale on the art world map as an international destination to view and interact with art, and as evidenced by articles in Forbes, Architectural Digest, PBS, NPR, and the like. We succeeded in that goal, even if it didn't become the next Art Basel. We exhibited over 500 artists, over 1,000 pieces of art, and we were doing this inside of homes that were for sale. So we got involved with the real estate board. Andrew had background in commercial, shopping center, retail management, and development. And I had a little background in real estate. And then the commercial property people said, hey, can you do art in our commercial space? So with Andrew having been a marketing director for Westfield Corporation, one of the largest mall companies in the world, he had developed vacancy management strategies and solutions for malls. He developed the first commission-free art gallery in an underutilized portion of the food court at the Broward Mall. So we came up with this initiative to activate vacant commercial real estate spaces, to create affordable working artist studios so artists have space to create and collaborate affordably outside their homes. Reach out to Mayor Dean Tratellis, supporter of the arts, one of the first openly gay mayors of a major city. He said, why don't you reach out to Mike Weymouth, the guy that owns Los Osos Company. We always heard he was a tough cookie. Took him 3 minutes. He said, sure, I'll give you a space. The program has proven. We've since opened 29 of these in the last 4 years. We're about to open number 30 in Jensen Beach, if any of you guys know artists up there in Treasure Coast, at the Treasure Coast Square Mall. We've now opened in 3 states, in 9 counties. We've had over 400 artists come through the program. It's changed hundreds of artists' lives, thousands of times over. I never could have imagined when I set out with my cell phone and the hashtag to just want to show people the artists that I was knowing and getting to know and establish relationships with, that we'd be putting artists in former Burberry stores in the first art studio in the world next to a Louis Vuitton, where somebody's walking out spending thousands of dollars and saying, oh, what's this art studio right here? So I'm doing all this, and this is where we're getting to the burnout part, right? I wasn't just here to tell you, but I wanted to give you guys some context in case you didn't know all of maybe what Andrew and I do. Because there's a lot more than that, but we're going to stick to this. Oh man, did I kick it again? All right. Hey, so in this process at some point as well, some artists came to me. They said they wanted to put sculptures on top of rocks and put them in the ocean. I didn't want to manage artists. Managing artists is a lot of stress and burnout. But they showed me a documentary called Chasing Corals. Anybody ever heard of that? It's made by the same people that made Seaspiracy. It was my aha moment. It woke me up to it. I felt, as I'm advocating for arts, these corals are out of sight, out of mind. They didn't have a voice. So we got involved with Andrew and our support. We've since put 105 of these in the ocean off the coast of Southeast Florida. We're now in 2 sites in Palm Beach and Hollywood. It's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people's lives. Unfortunately, yes, the corals are dying, the oceans are in bad shape, but we like to use art as a problem solver to raise awareness. So here's where we get to the burnout part. We take a trip with the nonprofit to Tulum during 2020. We had some friends that had a nonprofit that was working to restore this lighthouse just south of the Tulum ruins. So we're at the state park on the north end of the beach, flying the drone, doing some time lapses because I like doing that as a little hobby to create some content. And the way the story goes, my cameras die. I use all the batteries. And the partner in this nonprofit wanted to go explore the lighthouse. It was like a 10-minute walk each way. You needed 10 minutes to explore. So she was going to be gone for maybe 30 minutes. And her friend, who I had never met before until the day before, was 10 years younger than me. I was 35. He was 25. Sitting there on the beach of Tulum. I'm not even on top of the cable. And he turns to me and he says the words that ultimately changed the course of my life. You want to do some yoga? And I say, sure. And I had tried like a couple times before, and I didn't really think it was for me, but he wasn't a teacher. He was just a practitioner. We did a couple down dogs. We did a couple sun salutations, a couple forward folds. And I just remember instantly feeling better. We were on the go a lot that trip, so it really was like kind of bouncing me out. And I was like, all right, I kind of want to explore this yoga thing a little more. And as I'm on the beach in Tulum, I had just moved into a beautiful brand new building in downtown Fort Lauderdale with a 25th floor green space wraparound view that you could see all of Broward County. And somehow the universe placed this beautiful soul into this building to offer free yoga classes. And I had seen that she was doing that. And I had known her from some work we had done in the Arts District and Mass District, where she had a yoga studio called Red Pearl. And at this time, also the way the story goes, I had just met some girl that lived in the building. She was a personal trainer. She was attractive and in shape. I saw she was going to the yoga class. And I send Chloe a DM. I say, hey, Chloe, could you put in a good word with this girl? And Chloe says the next words that changed my life: come to yoga. And long story short, the girl evaporated, the yoga stuck. 1 class turned to 2 classes. Then I found out she was offering sound bowls, and this was all for free in my building. So I just took a little elevator ride, and I was there. If it would have been 1 block away, it might not have been the case, but it was so accessible. So I'm really starting to get the benefits of this yoga thing. I'm starting to spend more time with Chloe. I make a series, one of a series of multiple great choices. I fortunately chose TED Talks. I chose getting into the arts and culture. I chose a great business partner. We chose a great first venture with Art Fort Lauderdale. And I chose to engage Chloe in her paid coaching program, which is very reasonable. And she gave me some one-on-one private yoga lessons. She helped me develop some much needed habits, rituals, best practices, and daily routines. And that's where the meat and potatoes are going to come in today. You don't have to write this down. I can send this to you, but I developed a daily practice, daily habits and rituals. How many of you guys, and there's no wrong answer, you don't have to raise your hand, you can put your hand as high as you want. How many of you guys have some daily practice, some ritual, something you do? I'm gonna just ask, let me take this off the screen. What are some things that you like to do daily for yourself? There's no wrong answer. Great. Okay, that's important too.
I make myself.
Amen. That's very important. That's a great way to start your day. So those are things we do, and some of these things you do, daily habits and rituals. We all take a shower every day, right? You know, you sit down, you know, you go to work. There's things you do, but a lot of it has to do with the mindset and the intention behind some of these things. So Chloe helped me develop my daily routine, and this works for me. This is transferable, can work for anybody. So I start off immediately when I wake up with a brief moment of gratitude for whatever comes to mind. I'm happy to have woken up. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to have something to look forward to that day, that there's blue skies ahead. I then immediately, and all of this is available for free on your phone, on YouTube, all right? There's no catch, there's no sales program here. I immediately turn on different affirmations on YouTube. How many of you guys are familiar with like listening to affirmations, not writing down affirmations, but like going on YouTube and playing an affirmations? Has anybody ever done that before? Affirmations, for example, are I am healthy, I am whole, I am alive, I am human, I'm here, I'm able to breathe. Okay, there's, once again, scientific, tried and true science behind this. If you listen, especially when you first wake up and your brain is changing its brainwave patterns and alpha and all that stuff, you can reprogram your mind. If you listen to 100 of those every day, 7 days a week, let's call it 30 days in a month, you just listen to 3,000 a month. Over the course of the year, you could have listened to 36,000 positive affirmations that will literally help you reprogram your mind subconsciously as you're waking. And they also generally include some of those binaural beats and frequencies and hertz that further amplify these messages. So that's what I do upon immediately waking. Then, of course, I go to the bathroom. I drink some water. I'm starting to get going. And then I transition to different motivational talks. Actually, before I get out of bed, I do a 5-minute brief mobility routine, knees to chest, a couple little twists, nothing crazy, in bed, for free. Then I turn on the motivational talks while I eat my breakfast and supplements. I outline my supplements to the right there. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the beginning of COVID. Health is important to all of us. To be your best, you have to feel your best so you can do your best. These are all over the counter. I get them on Amazon. These work for me. Maybe you find one better that works for you. I take Super Beta Prostate, which is for men. Maybe there's something that's more applicable for women, but these are just a framework of something you can consider to help give you a couple little level ups by using nootropics, multivitamin, probiotic, and all the other things that I mentioned. So I eat my breakfast, I take my vitamins, then I have a brief morning meditation practice, 5 or 10 minutes, whatever I have, whatever you can make is fine. Then I do a brief morning yoga flow, 10, 15 minutes, whatever I have, a couple sun salutations, a couple of downward facing dogs, child's pose, a couple stretches, all for free. There's a million videos on YouTube. You can start with whatever feels good for you. Then I go to the sauna. Then I take a cold shower. And now I'm ready to start my day. Once again, to do your best, you have to feel your best so you can be your best, right? You really need to be conscious and intentional and mindful of setting yourself up for the day. Or if you don't, and if you just continue to go through the motions, which we all do, you are that much more likely to burn yourself out. So I'm going to share with you some quick, easy, free things that you can do to help avoid burnout and help give yourself a little bit more mental clarity. Has anybody ever heard, well, have we all heard of meditation and mindfulness? Okay. Has anybody ever tried this method on the right here, box breathing? Okay. They are now encouraging the Navy SEALs and Marines and Army Rangers and anybody in the military to do this in the field when they're out and they need a quick reset. This method, which we're going to try very quickly, it only takes a couple seconds, helps reset your parasympathetic nervous system. There's countless benefits to it. I do it for 4 seconds. So the way that this is going to go, you're going to breathe in for a count of 4. You're going to hold your breath for a count of 4. You're going to exhale for a count of 4. And then you're just going to reset and hold that steadiness for a count of 4. We're just going to do one round. I promise it won't hurt. You can close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open. Obviously, you don't have to participate if you don't want to. I don't take any offense to it. But if you guys could just maybe put your feet on the ground. You don't have to like get any, sit up too fancy. But I'm going to guide you through this. And so we're going to take one deep breath in. Exhale out. Now we're going to do one round of box breathing. So we're going to breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can blink your eyes open. Does anybody feel worse after that? No. That's called box breathing. Some people do it for 5 counts. Some people do it for 3 counts. Some you hold in for 4 and you exhale for 6. There's different variations. All of this, whatever works for you. If you don't remember anything else from this talk, hopefully you remember that. Because that is like the best thing. I just started setting reminders in my phone to go off every 2 hours. Remember to breathe. Remember to box breathe. And also, when you breathe with intention, we're breathing right now if you want to or if you're thinking about it or not. But when you breathe with intention, it also has other benefits to the parasympathetic nervous system and a lot of systems in the body. It oxidize your blood, so on and so forth. I don't know if I mentioned I'm not a meditation teacher. I'm just a practitioner. I'm just a yogi. I'm just a regular guy, creative entrepreneur, Andrew's business partner. But, you got a lot of stuff going on. We all have stuff going on, family, kids, job, work, traffic. This can help you at any point in your day. Some other things that can help you in this point of your day. How many of you, no embarrassment if you don't, or tons of pride if you do, how many of you guys practice some sort of yoga? Any type of yoga? Okay. How many of you would not have thought that this was yoga? This is a forward fold, and this is something called legs up the wall pose. This is yoga. And a lot of people think that the yoga, there are the asana practices, there's the physical practice. My favorite yoga, has anybody ever done yin yoga? Yin yoga is you lay on the floor and you hold certain positions and twists for anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes. It's very relaxing. It's restorative yoga. There are immense benefits. Anybody at any age, I'm trying to get my parents to do it, can do yoga. There's another form of yoga that I didn't mention in here, but I like to advocate and let people know about. Has anybody ever heard of something called Yoga Nidra? NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. How many of you guys take naps? Okay, should. We're going to budget some time for naps. NSDR is a great alternative to a nap. It's like a quick body scan. The woman on the free YouTube video will guide you through. All right, now direct your, and they always have like the nicest, softest voices. Direct your attention to your right ring finger. Direct your attention to your right thumb. And she walks you through her body scan. And even if you don't knock out for like a nap, it is resetting your nervous system. It is a great way to recharge. You actually leave it with more energy, even if you don't reach that like nap state. So that all of those are yoga. So I just like, and I do this every single night before I go to bed. I do a forward fold, and it has countless benefits for your hips, for your thighs, for your legs, for so many different things, hamstrings. So that is yoga. There are tons, I want to say unlimited videos available on the internet that you could type in yoga. Has anybody ever heard of Yoga with Adriene? She's like the best free yoga woman ever, and she's in Austin, and she's great, and God bless her. How many of you guys have heard of this young man here on the left? All right, this is the #1 health and wellness podcast in the world right now. This is Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's a head of neuroscience at Stanford, which is one of the best schools for neuroscience. He gives tried and true scientific backed methods to optimize your life, your health, your wellness, that he breaks down into the best layman term and ways I've ever seen. He will paraphrase the research papers in ways that a 5-year-old could understand. And he knows all this, he teaches all this. So these are 2 episodes. How many of you guys work from home? Okay, and how many of you guys work at the office? Okay. How many of you guys thought about optimizing your workspace? Right? Like, even if you don't listen to this episode, just think, he's really big on lighting. And one of the things that he talks about very briefly is you want to get ideally sunlight and natural light in your eyes within the first 30 minutes of waking. You don't want to have as much light, especially blue light, in your eyes in 30 minutes before sleeping. There's benefits to that. He talks about the screen eye positioning in this episode. Other episodes, optimizing your mindset. I'm going to share a great, and so you guys, most of you are creatives, creative in some way. I'm not a painter. I podcast, I fly the drone, we help artists, that's my creativity, right? Creativity can mean a million different things to a million different people. So divergent and convergent thinking, open observer to tools, imagination, supplements, increasing mesocortical dopamine levels by 65%. So these are some tried and true methods. And before I give you a really good example of his work, because I could just show you, but it's a lot better. I could tell you, it's a lot better to show you. How many of you guys drink coffee? How many of you guys drink more than 1 cup of coffee a day? How many of you guys drink more than 2 cups of coffee a day? All right. How many of you guys know, and where do you get that coffee? Do you go to a coffee store or do you make it at home? Okay. I'm diabetic, so I don't want to drink coffee all day because the sugar and the cream, and I would like to avoid that. I drink matcha. It's something, if you've never tried matcha, it has a lot of benefits and it still has caffeine. How many of you guys know that for what you spend on a couple cups of coffee, you can get a month full of caffeine benefits in this pill bottle that give you a 2 to 3 hour boost without having to make the coffee, without having to drop $6 a cup. And I love supporting the local coffee shop. So we go for meetings and I'll get a cup of coffee. But this right here, 2 to 3 hours, don't take it after 6 o'clock because it could mess up your circadian rhythm, will get you through the day. I used to take Vyvanse and Adderall. I'm not going to ask you how many of you take Vyvanse and Adderall, but I wanted to get off of that, and yoga, meditation, and mindfulness help. This will help give you those energy boosts throughout the day. I've been telling people about this for years. Most people don't take me serious, but this shit's a game changer, and he will give you the tried and true proven benefits of caffeine there. I'm going to play one brief snippet from one podcast episode with a guest you might recognize. Oh, I thought I was. Oh. Ah, this is true. All right, so does anybody know who the guy is with the crazy hair?
To create, but certainly a lot of people that were unhappy were still able to create. But the more I listen to you, it seems that it's really about an ability to pay attention.
Yes.
So if I'm unhappy or if I'm happy may not be as relevant as whether or not I'm able to stay undistracted.
Yes. I would say being able to stay present in the work is probably the most important part of it.
I was going to ask you whether or not it's important to be happy in order to create.
So that's
that's
Andrew Huberman. He has a very great presence. He's very calm, and once again, he knows everything and reads all the research papers. But he breaks it down into ways anybody can understand. He also brings on some of the most amazing guests: Dr. Peter Attia, Rick Rubin. He's just absolutely phenomenal. I can't advocate for his podcast more. So that's Andrew Huberman. And we're wrapping up here. I appreciate you guys still. Is this landing with everybody? Am I going over any? No, right? I'm a regular guy. This shit changed my life. Undoubtedly. Probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this stuff. How many of you guys know who that is? All right. So this guy, you see, how many of you done an ice plunge? Cold plunge. Okay. It's becoming more popular. There's a million scientific benefits to it. It does cost, to have a plunge. Even if you do it in your bathtub, you still need to get the ice. But he was one of the people that started really advocating and promoting the benefits of heat and cold exposure. So he, more so than that, advocates for a breathing method that he developed, and he's lived a very interesting life. that we're going to just do one last quick exercise, and this will definitely leave you feeling better. So he developed his own breathing method. We're going to do one brief round with it. There's no wrong way to do this. I'm just going to ask you guys to trust me. Once again, sit up straight in your chair.
Hi guys, welcome.
And just listen to what he says.
This is a guided breathing session. Relax to the deepest. Lie down, sit down, whatever it takes. Relax. Are you ready? Here we go. Round number 1. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Go with the flow of the breath. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Into the belly, into the chest, and let go. Like a wave. Make it circular. Fully in, and letting go. Just keep on going. No pause between inhalation and exhalation. Fully in, letting go. Five more. Let's give it all we got. Last one. Fully in and let go. All right. 30 seconds breath hold from now on. Be in this moment. Let the body do what the body is capable of doing. Be aware of your heartbeat. Slow it down and just be in this moment. Okay, recovery breath in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath in and hold for 15 seconds. Exhale in 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Round.
So that is Wim Hof breathing. Once again, does anybody feel worse after that? No. There is a lot of science behind that. That's one round. You generally do it for 3 rounds. You can do it in the morning when you wake up. You could do it before you have a big meeting or exercise or activity. That I open one last thing that I'd like to share with you guys that I'm fortunate to be a part of. Has anybody ever been a part of group work? Men's work, women's work, conscious work, parenting groups, anything, aside from AAF, because this is a group. Fortunately, through the work I was doing in yoga and the work I was doing in the community, I was invited to a meetup for light workers, for people that love helping people. And I fortunately connected with this young man on the left here, Dr. Seth Gilson, who's a holistic dentist and goes by the Mindful Doctor on Instagram. He loves helping people, the most altruistic, genuine, caring, giving doctor I've ever met. And he has a podcast called The Art of Mindful Medicine, where he interviews other MDs about how they integrate mindfulness and breath work and holistic practices in their thing. Highly encourage you to check it out. We connect. He tells me he's doing this men's work thing online. It was during COVID. And he was finding a lot of benefit from it. There's a lot of exercises like starting off with the Wim Hof breathing. It's like part therapy, part brotherhood, part support system, part the best thing I've ever experienced in my life. He wanted to create an in-person version. And fortunately, the gentleman in the middle was also doing the work. This is not woo-woo. This is just guys getting together, talking, holding space in a container for 3 hours every Wednesday night. It is the best tool in my toolkit. It is one of the most tried and true best things that I do for my self-care, is just being there. Some days you give more in terms of support, feedback, listening. Some days you get more when stuff's weighing heavier on you. And your brothers that meet for you and show up for you weekly are there to have your back, and they get to know you and they get to support you. They do conscious parenting groups, which I don't have kids, but I can only imagine it's tough. So between the monthly breakfast lecture series, mini TED Talk, the Creative Zen, which we do every second Friday morning of the month at NSU in the Alvin Sherman Library, where we bring in a different speaker to inspire by sharing their thought-provoking, relatable story, which is a great free community event, and another group between the men's work and between one other one, which I don't have a slide of, but has anybody ever been part of a goal-setting accountability mini mastermind group? Okay, here's a free invitation. This is just wealth of knowledge that we're sharing, which I'm glad to share with you guys, because this stuff has all had a profound impact on my life and on our community. That's why I'm sharing it with you. I was fortunate enough to stumble to something called Axen Club, AXEN, Action and Zen. It's a goal-setting accountability mini mastermind group that meets for free every other Tuesday night. We help people with their dreams, goals, startups, passion projects, or none of those things. You come in, we give you a notebook. First thing we ask you to do is write down 150 life goals. I want to skydive. I want to have my own merchandise. I want to be a millionaire. I want to have an Aston Martin. I want to find future Mrs. Snow, whatever the case may be. If you reach 150 life goals, which only 2 people have, writing them down, you get a lap dance or a burrito. I didn't come up with that, but that's the motivation. The exercise of putting pen to paper. I would choose a burrito too. The exercise of putting the pen to paper is paramount. I have in my first notebook from before COVID, I had goals written down in April of 2017, and I looked back on it 1 year to the day after in April 2018, and I had achieved some of those goals, and they were goals way beyond my wildest dreams. So the exercise that, and then you come in with every meeting, one goal that you want to work on, and we have breakout sessions, and we help people smart their goals. We make them specific, measurable, action-oriented, results-driven with time constraint. What can you do in the next 2 weeks to achieve that goal? One of my goals right now, as we're doing this Zero Empty Spaces thing, is to want to buy commercial real estate. So somebody in the group was helping me, like, okay, you got to get pre-qualified. You have to have your deposit lined up. You found a piece of real estate, now you got to see the zoning. You got to ask them about the HOA requirements. You got to ask them all this. And those action items, which is what we leave people with, those were what I worked on for the next 2 weeks to help me get closer to achieving my goal of purchasing a piece of commercial real estate. And the goal could be anything. That's called Axen Club, AXEN. It's a free thing. We just resumed it for the first time after COVID. We're so glad to do it. So that's that. So these are just, once again, some things I love in-person communication, face-to-face. This cannot be duplicated on Zoom, right? Being here, hugs, high fives, handshakes, you know, and all the benefits that come from that. I love that. That's my oxygen. And as you can begin to see, all this stuff in the community that we do professionally, because we're not independently wealthy people, we do have to earn a living. And all the stuff we do personally between the men's work and the Creative Zen and the Axen Club, this is my why. This is my oxygen. This is the stuff that fills my cup. So I recently summarized all of these life lessons and choices and stuff I've acquired in my short 37 years on this planet, and I've recently published my first book called Learning to Choose, where I outline not just my story and the choices, but I end each chapter with learning lessons of questions that I pose back on the reader to help them maybe make choices to step outside of your comfort zone, to unlock your hidden potential, to change your life, your community, the art world, or the world beyond. If I was truly just a regular Johnny 9-to-5 recruiter, sitting at a desk, listening to TED Talks, fortunately meeting Andrew, you guys could do it. Anybody could do it. And all that stuff that I just mentioned, that's all free. All of that. You can get as much as you want out of it. You can get as little as you want out of it. If you do one of those things that I mentioned, I guarantee you, your life will change incrementally, if it's 1%, if it's 100%, if it's 1,000%. So, and then this was our 5-year anniversary of Creative Zen. We've brought in some phenomenal speakers I shared for the 5-year anniversary. We have all the talks, thankfully. Mike Hewitt, he's not here, is he? Mike helped us start a film committee under AAF. Mike videotapes these talks when he's here in town. We record them. We put them on our YouTube, we put them on social media, so you can play back the inspiration and motivation from these talks. It's AAF Creative Zen. I highly, if you guys live around here, I encourage you to join us. We do it for free. We've got some great speakers lined up. We've had some great speakers in the past. And yeah, you never know who you're gonna meet on this journey. You never know how they're gonna change the course of your life. And I'm a living testament to that. So I appreciate you guys being here, tuning in, supporting AAF. And all those things. I can hang around if you have questions or answer questions, if whatever format is. But and I have books if anybody's interested, obviously. But yeah, that was it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you for giving your time to be here with us today. Small token of our appreciation. I don't know if they have much at Starbucks, but
they do.
Oh, fantastic!
Yes.
Here you go.
Thank you.
And a little bit of AAF.
Oh wow.
For you.
Okay.
Thank you
I'll
so
take
much
it.
again. I'm very inspired by this. I know it's a little bit outside the box of what we usually have at our conferences, outside the realm of advertising. But we as professionals, regardless of our profession, all experience all experience stressful days. I, as a mother, experience days, and I've learned a few tactics to help me along the way. So thank you again. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Another round of applause. Sarah, is everything ready to go back here? Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like lunch is ready. So if you'd like to go ahead and make your way over this way, you can grab your lunch. We'll have another speaker in about